Vern Kotelko, President and Joint CEO, is the owner and operator of Highland Feeders Limited in Vegreville, Alberta.
Just kind of a little overview of Highland Feeders, and it didn't take us long to grasp the concept that if we provided an environment for our beef cattle to grow in a comfortable way where it was dry and we didn't have ponding and runoff, and the other thing was the runoff, because that was part of the animal cycle. They didn't digest all of the food that was put into them, and so really it was unused nutrients and wasn't a waste. And so that's where we ended up. Today we're adding value to the unused nutrients and really converting that waste into energy. So we really don't have to use that W waste word anymore in what we're doing, because we're just managing our resources and helping sustainability. And I think it was unjust the way the media attacked the food versus fuel, because really what we are doing is both food and fuel. When we look at the type of feed wheat that we use in this process, it's using the grain twice, and so we're actually maximizing the use of it. And my son Brett, just finishing up a chemical engineering degree, and he'll be part of the after coffee presentation and his work with Engineers Without Borders, and has some figures from the UN that right now the world produces about 3,000 calories of food per person in the whole world, which is more than sufficient for everyone at this time, and we haven't actually maximized production in some of the underdeveloped areas. And so really it's not a shortage of food, it's a distribution of it. What makes good environmental stewardship makes good business sense in the modern agribusiness. We look at all fuels, and biofuels aren't created equally. We have a model where we are using the cattle manure to provide the energy for it, and so it's a whole different process. But just kind of the growing power ethanol at 4.4, and that's our model, and what we are able to do right now, and it's not something in the theory and something that we're going to get to, where we're using the cattle manure from our 30-some thousand head of cattle to produce electricity and heat that will fuel an ethanol plant. And the only energy that's involved in that equation is the energy that's used to grow the crops and to take the ethanol away to a blender where it goes into the gasoline stream. And so we're at 4.4, and compare that to cellulosic ethanol, which is just in theory right now, and they're waiting for the price of enzymes to come in line with the energy production. And I guess you see the gasoline and the diesel on the opposite sides, which have a negative balance, because we know that they'll take a little bit of their own petroleum energy to get them in a state where they can put them in their own vehicles. Now this is a very busy slide. Our techie was very creative with it, but what it is we're taking feed grade wheat, and on the right side, and we're putting it into our ethanol plant, and that goes through its fermentation process to produce the ethanol. The surplus of that, or not, the end product of the ethanol plant goes back to feed the cattle, because what you have is distillers' grains, and the ethanol process, it really just strips some of the carbohydrates off it, and we're left with the rest of the nutrients to feed back to the cattle. Because it's on site, we don't have to dry that wet distiller's grains, and so that's where you've got a 30% savings, and you see in the very top, in your whole energy cycle, because it comes out as a porridgey, a starchy material that the cattle love to eat, because that's part of their whole rumen digestion system. So then you've got the cattle in the top left-hand corner, and the other species of livestock will work also, are providing the manure that's the energy for our anaerobic digesters. So that digesting, or the carbon out of the manure in the form of methane, that feeds our generator, and the generator has the electricity and the heat. And so the reason that the ethanol works so well with this model is that when you generate use your methane, you can. There's three ways. I guess you can go straight in the natural gas line and just use the heat units of it. You could use it to fuel an engine to create electricity. But when you use them both, we're getting about 80% efficiency out of that, because each of those only provide about half the energy for that. And so when we look at the whole cycle, and the other one is the water flowing into it, it's water that gets to be used twice. So now water that would normally come to feed these livestock first goes through the ethanol plant, and after the distillation process and the water that passes through the feed, the water gets effectively used twice. And so this model is using the grain twice, we're using the water twice, and we're using our manure twice, because the manure that goes through this system, we only take the carbon out of it, the nutrients are left, and when we look at the model of the land use in Ontario and the livestock in the urban areas, that's the biggest concern and irritant of non-farm rural residents is when they spread the manure. And so the manure that comes out of this process, all of the odor is gone. It looks a lot like peat moss material, but it's actually got nutrients in it instead of it's just a filler. So you've got the ideal system here to create, and we can honestly truly say that we are producing food and fuel while minimizing the carbon footprint. And so when we move on to that, the globalization opportunities, and we have, right now, we have 10 projects on the go, and this is just the infomercial on the Spring Creek Ranch, so watch for that logo on the menu. It's in some of the Safeways, and that's really our passion, is producing great food for a consumer that's more concerned about how this food was raised. Because of that process that we're using the animal manure to create the energy for this biogas plant, we can put the claim that our beef has actually got a 27% lower carbon footprint than normal conventional beef, which beef, the way it's normally raised, is actually way off the scale when we look at the carbon impact. And that's conventional beef. Yeah. So when we look at the conclusions and why we're glad to be here and tell our story, is that agriculture is, as I say, will be part of the energy in this province for the next thousands of years, while the petroleum-based ones, we like to think that those will be minimized and used in extreme cases where you had to actually carry that gasoline over to wherever it was to run that engine, that there was no other way to get the fuel over there. So with getting that concept of the food and fuel, and with the triangle of the environment and the carbon on the top, we feel glad to be here, and look forward to more discussion and detail on some of these topics after coffee. And there's the websites of all the different companies we have, and we're here to prove Darwin's theory wrong about the dumbest one having to keep the farm. And so with that, we'll enjoy coffee.
Thank you very much, Bern. I'm wondering if you could all join me in thanking what was an excellent slate of speakers this morning in our plenary session. Lots of material to chew on there. We're going to now break for coffee until 10:30, and then we'll be breaking into the concurrent sessions. And Bill, do you want to give instructions on where the rooms are?
Okay, thanks, Chris, and thanks, Chris, for an excellent job with facilitating this session here. And after our coffee break, we're moving into our concurrent sessions, and that's one floor up from here. Those concurrent sessions start at 10:30, and you take the stairs for those to get up there. They're just behind the registration area, and we'll have